All right, let's get right into it. The story we're looking at today comes from an ancient Buddhist text, the Samyukta Ratna Pitaka Sutra. And honestly, it's a really powerful, almost unsettling tale. It's all about karma, choice, and a consequence that happens so fast it almost defies belief. This isn't just a story you see, it's a stark illustration of a principle that suggests some of our actions can have an immediate, and I mean dramatic, impact on our reality. So, our story starts not with a tragedy, but with a puzzle. We meet this woman who is by all accounts incredibly beautiful, and she's chosen to become a nun. Now, back then, this was a huge deal, a really shocking decision, and it just left everyone around her scratching their heads and wondering, why would someone who seemed to have every worldly advantage just turn her back on it all? People couldn't help but ask her directly. Her beauty just seemed so at odds with a life of simplicity and discipline, and her choice was this constant source of curiosity. And her answer? Well, it only made things more mysterious. She explained that this wasn't some casual decision. It came from a profound aversion, a really deep-seated revulsion to worldly desire that came from something specific, something she had personally witnessed. So the question is, what on earth did she see? To understand her choice, we have to rewind. We have to go back in time, to her life before she was a nun, because the root of her decision, that thing she witnessed, is all wrapped up in the tragic story of her own son. You see, her life had once been pretty conventional, maybe even idyllic. She married young, and not long after, she gave birth to a son. He was as handsome as she was beautiful, and she absolutely adored him. He was the center of her universe. But as the boy grew into a young man, something changed. A strange and terrible illness started to take hold of him. There was no clear cause. He just became frail, his energy vanished, and he completely withdrew from everyone. He was being consumed by some unseen ailment that nobody could figure out. He was just wasting away right before his mother's eyes. His mother was absolutely desperate. Was it a physical sickness? A curse? What was it? She pleaded with him to just tell her what was wrong, to reveal the source of all this torment. But for the longest time, he refused to say a word. And then finally, pushed to the very brink of death, he gave her this just heart-wrenching answer. Talk about being trapped. The silence was literally killing him. But he believed the truth would bring a shame so great that life would be completely unbearable. This was a confession born of pure desperation. And then the secret was out. The source of his mysterious illness, the suffering that was eating him alive from the inside, was an overwhelming and forbidden desire he had developed for his own mother. He knew it was wrong, and that moral conflict was literally destroying his body. What happens next is the climax of the story. It's the moment that would completely shatter this woman's world and send her down a totally new path. And it's where this idea of instant karma becomes terrifyingly real. So, the mother was faced with this unimaginable choice. The son she loved was dying. In her desperation to save him, she started to consider the unthinkable. She thought that maybe, just maybe, if she gave in to his desire, she could spare his life. It was a choice between what she knew was right and a mother's desperate love. And in that moment of decision, the consequence was immediate. As her son, who saw what he thought was consent in her eyes, took a single step toward her, it was like the universe itself intervened. The ground beneath his feet just violently split open, and before she could even react, he fell, alive, into the dark chasm that had opened up. She lunged for him, that last desperate mother's instinct to save her child, but it was too late. All she could grab was a single lock of his hair as he disappeared into the earth. And that lock of hair, she would later say, she kept with her always, a constant physical reminder of the absolute horror she witnessed. So that's the end of the story itself, but it's really the beginning of the explanation. This isn't just some grim folktale. It was told to illustrate a very specific and powerful Buddhist teaching about how karma actually works. The big question here is, why was the result so immediate and so absolute? I mean, in most teachings about karma, the effects of our actions play out over time, sometimes even over lifetimes. So why was this different? What happened here? The answer lies in this concept called Xian Fa Shou. It basically translates to immediate karmic retribution.
It's the idea that some actions are just so karmically potent, their consequences don't wait for a future life. They show up right here, right now.
So here's the crucial part. What makes an action so powerful? Well, according to this teaching, the object of the action matters immensely. Parents are considered a field of deep grace. Think of it like incredibly fertile soil. Any seed you plant in that soil, whether it's a good seed or a bad seed, is going to grow with extraordinary speed and intensity. And this story just brilliantly illustrates the two sides of that coin, right? Actions of harm, disrespect, or, severe ingratitude towards your parents, like the son's forbidden desire, plant seeds that can yield immediate, terrible results. But, and this is so important, the reverse is also true. Actions of genuine gratitude, love, and piety create powerful good karma that can also show up incredibly quickly. So let's focus on that positive takeaway. Because while the story is a really stark warning, the principle behind it is also a powerful guide for creating good in our own lives. So how do we actually apply this? The teaching suggests that planting seeds of kindness and gratitude in this field of deep grace gives you the most powerful positive results. And this isn't just about big, grand gestures. Simple acts, caring for aging parents, showing genuine support, just offering a heartfelt thank you. These are seen as creating potent positive karma that can bring blessings into our lives with that same surprising speed. So if we boil it all down, the core lesson from this ancient story is that our relationship with our parents is karmically unique. The energy we direct towards them, positive or negative, gets amplified. It has the power to shape our immediate reality in ways we might not even expect. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This story, as extreme as it is, presents this really compelling idea that the moral weight of some choices can actually collapse the distance between cause and effect. It asks us to consider that field of deep grace in our own lives and really think about what exactly we're planting there today.